Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining us today in today's live lecture coming to you from Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University. Today's date is Oye Market Day in the month of Onwa Uzo Alose in the Igbo lunar calendar, and 1/13/2026 in the Roman Catholic calendar. The reason why we are giving you both calendars is for you to know that we have our own. It's right there. And remember, at Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University, we are an university where we encourage you to use your naturally given common sense, which we call Akonuche in Igbo language. And also because we are Igbo-centric, Biafran-centric, and African-centric. We encourage you to see things from how it concerns you, not how it concerns other cultures, because every culture protests their own. That's why we always encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And right now, we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, we are live on TikTok, and we are live on Twitter. So join us so that you can enjoy this important lecture. The title of today's lecture is Airplanes Taking Off, Cruising, and Landing. What we have to know. Aeroplanes, that is aircraft, how they take off, how they cruise on the air, and then how they land. And the reason we chose this topic is because we Africans, we Biafrans, we the Igbo race, we are one of the most traveled in the world. The Igbo race is the most traveling race in the world. That is why it is important we present this lecture to you so that you don't just enter an airplane, you don't know what's going on there, and then the airplane takes off, flies you from one place to another, you just get down. You don't know anything about airplane. That is not right. And we encourage you to do your own research. The purpose of this university is to encourage you, is to motivate you to be conducting researches. Stop spending your time on irrelevant, contents, irrelevant content creators, so that you can develop your mind, you can understand the world you live in, you can know things that you're supposed to know. And so that is why we chose this lecture to present it to you this afternoon. And we want you to know that before any plane takes off, there are initial preparations that the airline or the airline company have to make before that plane takes off. And some of the initial preparations that the airlines have to do includes cleaning the aircraft. They will make sure that the aircraft is clean. They will inspect the aircraft to see if there's any need for repairs, if there's any maintenance that is needed. And if there's any, that maintenance will be conducted for the safety of the trip, of the passengers, of the airline crew, the plane, the airline crew, and the passengers. And so this preparation, like we said, including restocking the airplane with food and necessary ingredients like drinks and, in some cases, medicine. Completing checks of the onboard systems to see if there's anything that needs to be repaired. Repairs conducted. Refueling, they refuel the aircraft, and then they push it back, ready for boarding. You know, the boarding is when they check the passengers into the plane, right? And so after they check you into the plane, assign you a seat, they immediately, yes, as soon as you enter the airplane, they're already giving you oxygen in the plane. Because you know that when the plane takes off into the altitude, there's no enough air to sustain life. The plane is giving you oxygen. Immediately you enter the plane, there's oxygen is already pumping inside that plane. That noise you hear that's making she is the oxygen that are pumping for you. And then afterwards, they will explain to you the safety precautions that you have to know before the plane takes off. And then after that, they make sure everybody wears their seat belts. They have to make sure everybody wears their seat belts. And that airplane crew will then travel inspection, will then go seat by seat to inspect the passengers, to make sure that everybody is wearing their seat belts, and also to position the seat in the normal position that is supposed to be before takeoff. So these are the initial preparations before the plane actually takes off. And you know, this lecture is for people that have entered the plane and the people that have not entered the plane. So we are giving you this lecture so that you know, if you have not entered the plane before, so that you know, so that if you have not entered the plane before, you have this information before you enter the plane. And then if you are a regular traveler using the plane, then also this information will also help you to understand how the plane functions, for you to understand the function of the plane. And we are also encouraging you to do your own research, get more information so that you know, so that you do not just walk into an airplane, sit down, you don't know anything that is going on. All you know is we're about to take off, we're about to land, you get down, you just leave. That's not how to operate. Understand what you are using, understand how it functions. That is why we thought it's very important to present this type of lecture to you. And so, during takeoff of airplanes, it is a combination of what they call thrust, drag, weight, and lift. The combination of these four factors is what makes the plane to go up, to move forward, to move forward and upward and flying, It's very important that you know that, and hence this lecture. Very, very, very important. So a plane taking off is made up of four important factors. Four important things are going on at the same time. The first one, they call it thrust. Second one, they call it drag. Third one, they call it weight. And the third one is lift, that makes it to move. Lift means going up. Okay? So drag is the air resistance that is pulling the plane back. The plane is made up of materials plus all the luggages and people that is in the plane. So it's kind of heavy, right? So as the plane is trying to fly, the weight the plane and the contents in it, which includes the luggages and the bags and the fuel and everything, constitutes the drag that is dragging the plane, trying to pull the plane back. So that is the drag, the air resistance that is pulling the plane back. Okay? Lift refers to the wings. It is the wings. Wings make lift by changing the direction and pressure of the air that crashes into them as the engine shoots them through the sky. The wing of the plane is designed in such a way that when the plane is pushing, when the thrust, the engine is pushing the plane off, the wind that is coming, that is moving towards the plane, splits. You know how the plane is splits to the wings. So it is the wings changing the direction and pressure of the air that is coming to it that crashes into them as the engine shoots through them, that makes the plane to lift, to go upward the sky. That's what it is. So the lift refers to how the wing uses the air coming from the front of the plane. So that's how the wind splits in the wing that makes the upper side of it lighter. Okay? It makes it lighter, and the one below is kind of heavier. So that balance helps the plane to move up. Okay? So the movement, the lift of the airplane, the ability for the plane to fly is kind of natural. It's a natural occurrence. Okay? And so that's the lift. Now, the weight is the weight of the plane, like I've explained before. The weight of the plane, what they use to produce, to make the plane, and the luggages and the passengers and everything inside the plane. That is the weight. The weight also is part of the drag, like I have explained earlier, that is dragging the plane back. All those four things working together is what makes the plane to fly. And so during takeoff, when the plane is attempting to climb in the sky, the thrust from the engines pushing the plane forward, that's the force the engine is pushing the plane. The thrust is to push the plane forward, exceeds the drag. So during takeoff, when the plane is attempting to climb in the sky, the thrust from the engine, the thrust is the engine that is pushing the plane forward, while the air from that pushing of the engine forward comes to the wings that makes the wing to lift the plane up. That's how the plane flies. So let me just go down without interruption. So during takeoff, or when the plane is attempting to climb in the sky, the thrust from the engines pushing the plane forward exceeds the drag. It exceeds the drag, the air resistance, pulling it backwards. This creates a lift force greater than the plane's weight, which powers the plane higher into the sky. So that force of the thrust of the engine that is pushing the plane forward, and then the ability of the wings to manipulate that the wind coming to the wings. That's how they manufacture the wings of that plane. So that helps the plane to overcome the weight, which is the drag of the plane, for the plane to shoot to the sky. And we want to also explain to you what the jet engine is. A jet engine is a machine that converts energy-rich liquid fuel into a powerful pushing force called thrust. A jet engine is a machine that converts energy-rich liquid fuel into a powerful pushing force called thrust. The thrust from one or more engines pushes a plane forward, forcing air past its scientifically shaped wings to create an upward force called lift that powers it into the sky. I hope you understand it now. So the jet engine, using the energy-rich liquid fuel, provides the force. That force is called the thrust, the movement, that speed of that, like provide the speed of the plane. So as the plane is speeding, on the tarmac, as you know how it's speeding on the tarmac. As it's speeding on the tarmac, the thrust from one or more engines pushes the plane forward, forcing air past its scientifically shaped wings. That's a way they shape the wing of that airplane, that when the air gets there, the air is distributed in such a way that the airplane can now fly up. That is how the airplane leaves the ground and flies up. That is the science behind it. It is natural occurrence in combination with, science. So that is how the plane takes off. Like we have explained before, it is a combination of thrust, which is the engine pushing the plane forward, and also the drag. The drag is the resistance of the size of the plane and the content, which is also the weight of the plane. And then the lift is the wings that is helping the plane to fly above the ground and up into the sky. So that's what it is. That, in short, is how planes work. Okay? And this information was provided for us by Chris Woodford. Okay? Now, remember in yesterday's lecture, we explained that commercial airplanes cruises at 5,000 to 40,000 feet above the ground, right? Because it is safer. It results to fuel efficiency. Okay, that is why when they take off and they try to get to that cruising level where they stabilize, it helps them to get to where they're going faster. Okay, so that is how the plane flies, takes off from the ground, gets to the cruising level, and stays there until it gets to its destination. And then we want to use this lecture also to explain to you what is called turbulence when you are in the plane. In most cases, they tell you to put on your seatbelt or go back to your seat, that there's turbulence. And you see the plane shaking like this, okay? So turbulence, the simple word for turbulence is rough air. It's rough air in the atmosphere. In the cruising altitude is rough air. So rough air happens everywhere, even from this ground level that we are to far above cruising altitude, way there. When the plane is flying, especially if you are flying very, very long flights, if you look at the map, it will be showing you tailwind and temperature. And you can see that there's a lot of wind up there in the flying altitude, up there in the space atmosphere. There's a lot of wind there. In this our Earth's atmosphere, there's a lot of wind here too. Okay. And so there are rough air, which is everywhere from the ground level to even far above cruising altitude. But the most common turbulences experienced by flyers has three common causes. Three things causes the turbulence you see or you get when you are flying in an airplane. One of them is mountains. The next one is jet streams. The third one is storms. That is rainfall. Okay? Mountains, jet streams, and storms. Mountain waves can propagate as wide, gentle oscillations into the atmosphere. Mountain waves. The mountain is very high. So when the wind, comes to it, some air can, disperse, roughly to other places. So when the plane is is close to that at the time that it is happening, the plane will feel that wind. That is what is called turbulence. The one caused by the mountain. Okay. They also break into many strong wind currents, which we experience as turbulence. All right. So another form of turbulence, like we have said before, are jet streams. Jet streams are disorderly air. They are also disorderly air, meandering bonds of swift, mostly horizontal winds located near poles. Is caused by differences in wind velocities. So jet streams is caused by differences in wind velocities as an aircraft moves away from regions of maximum winds to other areas. Okay? So just know that the turbulence, when you are in an airplane and they tell you that go to your seat, put on your seat belt, and you can actually feel the airplane shaking. That is called turbulence. And it's caused by three important factors: the mountains, jet streams, and storms. And then storms are rapid growth of storm clouds, pushes air away, generating waves in the atmosphere that can break up into turbulence by this information was given by National Geographic Association. Okay, so three things cause turbulence. So when you are experiencing turbulence, when you are flying, it's either caused by a mountain, it's either caused by jet stream or storms. Those are the things we want you to know in these lectures. And then when the plane had been flying and wanting to land, there's something they call initial descent. When it's getting close to where they will land, about 50 miles before landing or 30 miles before landing, they will announce to you. But before then, you will notice that the plane is already coming down. It's already coming down. It's already coming down. Okay? And so it's called initial descent. Initial descent phase starts when the crew leaves the cruise altitude in order to land. They have left the cruise altitude. Now they want to land. So they are now coming down gradually. It's called initial descent. You can feel it in the plane when you're there, that sometimes it's just like it's falling down like that, gradually coming down. It's called initial descent. So initial descent phase starts when the crew leaves the cruise altitude in order to land. It normally ends when the crew initiates changes in the aircraft's configuration or speed in view of the landing. It may, in some cases, end with a cruise or climb to cruise phase. Okay? So that is the steps of landing. The first phase of landing is the initial descent. In initial descent, they have left the cruising altitude, then coming down, descending down in preparation to land. The next approach to landing is called approach phase. They are approaching the airport now where they will land. They're approaching that airport. It's called approach phase. And that approach phase starts when the crew initiates changes in the aircraft's configuration and or speed in view of the landing. It normally ends when the aircraft in the landing configuration and the crew is dedicated to land on a particular runway. When they have been given a runway to land, they now configure the airplane. You see them sometimes it's turning. If you can feel it turning one way or the other, they are trying to position the aircraft to the runway that they will land. It's called approach, which means they are approaching the runway in the airport that they will land. Now, the last phase is the landing. The landing phase begins when the aircraft is in the landing configuration and the crew is dedicated to land on a particular runway. It ends when the aircraft's speed is decreased to taxi speed and goes to the hangar where we are discharged. That's how the airplane takes off and lands. You need to know this. You need to know this because we are one of the most traveling people in this world. You have to at least have an idea. After this lecture, go and do more research about the airplane, how they fly. There are so many other things. There's what they call the landing gear, the gear that they are using for landing. And you can feel the tires and the bandwidth. There's a lot of interesting things. A lot of interesting things on how they design the airplane and also the wings, different things in the wings that controls it, and how they place those engines, the jet engines, at the wings of that airplane, and how also they shoot gas from the bottom of the airplane. Before the airplane takes off, they shoot gas out. They shoot gas out of the bottom of the airplane. To create gas to help the airplane to move. It is very interesting. These are the things we have to know. We don't just have to be starting chasing our daily bread. You are able or preparing to enter an airplane. You don't have idea about anything about airplane. It is not right. And hence this lecture. That's why we are bringing this lecture to you, for you to know, at least have an idea how the airplane takes off, how it cruises, how it lands. You have to have it. Don't let nobody tell you. Do your own research. It is very important you know that. So, bringing this lecture to the close, what we are saying today is that our title is Airplane, How They Take Off, How They Cruise and Land, What We Have to Know. We want you to know about it. It is important you know about it. We at Nkola Mahadum, we are an university. We are not content creators. We package and present lectures that we know will benefit you, an Igbo man, a Biafran, and an African. Because you need to know this. And so what we are saying is that even before the plane takes off, there are some preparations that the airline have to make. They have to restock the plane with food, with fuel, with other necessary items, napkins. They have to clean the plane, clean the seats, clean the toilets, make sure everything is okay. Look and see if there's any repairs to be made. If there are any repairs, they will make the repairs. Refueling it, pushing it back, getting it ready in position for boarding. And then finally, you are boarded into the plane. And when you are boarded into the plane, immediately you enter the plane, they already started giving you oxygen. They provided oxygen until later, before takeoff, they demonstrate to you the safety precautions. And then they check all the seats to make sure everybody is wearing seat belts. and then make sure that all the seats are aligned in the takeoff position before takeoff. And what we have explained to you is that even at takeoff, the takeoff is made up of four things. Four things will be working together, both in favor of the plane and against the plane taking off. Those things are the thrust, which is the engine pushing the plane forward. The drag, which is the resistance of the plane to move because, it's heavy. The weight of the plane. And then the lift, which is caused by the wings of that plane. So, and we told you that the drag is the fair resistance of the plane because of how the plane was made, the passengers and luggages and other things inside, the food. So it's heavy. So that is the drag. It is dragging the plane back while the plane is trying to move. Why the lift are the wings. The wings make lift by changing the direction and pressure of the air. The air that is coming from the head of the plane, as the plane is pushing, the wing that is coming towards the wing changes the direction and pressure of that air that crashes to it as the engine shoots them through the sky. The wind coming from the sky as the engine moves is what propels the lift, and then the weight, like we have said, is the plane and the contents. So those are the factors. But the engine thrust, how the plane is moving fast, and the wind that is coming towards it is what is making it to take off. That is what we want you to know. And then during takeoff, when the plane is attempting to climb in the sky, the thrust from the engines pushing the plane forward exceeds the drag, exceeds the weight that is pulling it back. That creates a lift force greater than the plane's weight, which powers the plane high into the sky. That's how the plane takes up. It's important you know that. You don't just come every day and sit in the plane and they tell you the plane is taking off. You don't know what is going on during that time. You have to know. And hence this lecture. And also we use this lecture to introduce to you, to define to you what jet engine means. Jet engine is a machine that converts energy-rich liquid fuel into a powerful pushing force called thrust. The movement of the plane, that speed that is moving with is the engine that is providing it. So the thrust from one or more engines pushes a plane forward, forcing air past its scientifically shaped wings to create an upward force called lift. So the movement of the plane caused by the engine called thrust forces air to the wing, and the wind manipulates that air that causes the plane to fly. That's how airplanes fly. That is, in short, how planes fly from the ground to up. That is very, very, very important. And then the plane flies up, tries to go up to their cruising level. Their cruising level is 35,000 to 40,000 feet. Remember, at that cruising altitude, it is safer there for them. It is fuel efficient. Remember, at that altitude, because the higher you go, the colder it becomes. Sometimes you have minus 45 degrees centigrade. The temperature in the plane will be showing you outside temperature, minus 44 degrees, very, very, very cold up there. Very, very, very cold. And it will also show you wind tail, 50 miles per hour or 120 miles per hour. So up there is windy and cold. The higher you go from this ground up, the more windy and cold it becomes. That is why when airplanes are up there, they are safer. The engines are cooler because they are in a very chilled environment. And so that is why airplanes are cruising at that very altitude of between 35,000 to 40,000 for commercial airlines. Remember, yesterday we told you that military airlines can cruise between 50,000 to 85,000 miles, while smaller airplanes like helicopters can cruise at 2,000, can fly altitude of 2,000 miles only, you know. And so we also use this lecture to explain to you what plane turbulences are. Each time we are in the plane, we are told that, hey, there's turbulence coming. Can you go to your seat? Can you put your seatbelt? What are the causes? And we are making it known to you that the causes are the mountains, the storm, and the mountains, the storm, and the jet streams. The mountain, jet streams, and the storms. Those are the causes of the turbulence, okay? Mountain waves cause the turbulence, and disorderly air associated with jet streams cause the turbulence. And then rapid growth of storm clouds, you know, the clouds moving in that altitude also causes the turbulences. These are the things that you have to know. And then finally, during landing, that's what they call initial descent. Initial descent is when the airplane have left the cruising altitude, coming down to getting ready to land. It's called initial descent. And then the next part of the landing is called approaching phase. In the approaching phase, the airplane is already targeting the runway that it will land on. And so approach phase starts when the crew initiates changes in the aircraft's configuration and speed in view of the landing. It normally ends when the aircraft is in the landing configuration and the crew is dedicated to land on a particular runway. That is the approaching end. And then finally, the landing. When they told you, we're about to land, get ready, we're about to land, that is the landing phase. And the landing phase begins when the aircraft is in the landing configuration and the crew is dedicated to land on a particular runway. It ends when the aircraft's speed is decreased to taxi speed and goes to the hangar where we are discharged. These are the things you must know. That is why we thought it wise to present this lecture to you today. And if you have enjoyed this lecture, and we hope you do, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just touch that bell button on the YouTube channel. Follow us, like us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And also like, comment, and share. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. Thank you very much for joining us and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.